In a world where you can be anything, be. I remember the first time I heard this saying, I felt elated. My ego jumped up and down and said, yes, yes, I can be anything. The second half of that sentence is, be yourself. As I have worked with this idea over this past week, I have been brought into a new way of understanding what this means. It is not about the ego being able to do whatever it wants. It isn't even about God giving me the power to do whatever I want. It is about getting in touch with our inner truth, who we have come here to be at this time. What are the gifts, the talents that we are here to share with the world? And if we truly own them, what does that mean about who we are and what we are to do? Over the course of this past week, I've experienced, excuse me, I have experienced some fundamental changes in my understanding of who I am and why I'm here. I'm grateful that I stand on the shoulders of Charles Fillmore and reserve the right to change my mind as my consciousness shifts. You may be thinking, as I did, oh no, what does this mean? I knew what to expect before. There's been so much change this last year, not this too. Well, please just bear with me for a moment. And as I share what has come alive in me and could possibly, I hope, come alive for you too in a deeper way. I have said for years that the ego is not our enemy. I've actually said that it was our friend. I still say that it's not our enemy because this implies that there's a second power. And I live from the principle that there is no one and nothing against me. And so it's how do I reconcile this? It is, however, a false idea of who I am. It is a limited understanding and will do everything in its power to hold me back from expressing my highest truth in any moment. The fear that comes with the ego is based on the illusion that there is a world out there that is separate from me and it is against me. Now, one of the ways that I interpreted the ego was to say that it was for me. It told me when to eat and to drink. It told me not to step out onto the street without looking both ways. In working with the power of wisdom, I've come to understand that Jesus came not to heal people. That was a byproduct of what he did. He came to demonstrate our oneness with ourselves, each other, and all that is, which he called Father. It is this understanding that has awakened a deeper wisdom that I don't need an ego to tell me when to eat any more than a bird does. I don't need the ego to keep me safe because I have within me the power of wisdom. And this wisdom is my guiding force. We don't need an ego. You don't need an ego to tell you when to eat any more than a bird does. You don't need the ego to keep you safe because you have within you the power of wisdom. And this wisdom is your guiding force. In the Bible story of the adulteress, the Pharisees bring a woman to Jesus and tell him she has been caught in the act. The law says that she is to be stoned for her sin. They ask him, "What do you say?" And Jesus knelt down and drew in the sand. Now, it doesn't say what he drew in the sand. And I think that maybe he just doodled for a moment, just to be able to tap into that inner wisdom, that there was a wise answer for this situation. And then he looks up and he says, "He who is without sin cast the first stone." One by one, the men drop their stones and walk away. The woman remained and stood there. And Jesus looked at her and he asked, "Where are your condemners?" "Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." From my perspective, there was so much more going on there than meets the eye. This woman was caught in the act. The Pharisees represent that part of us that is always out there looking for the other who doesn't look like us, doesn't think like us, doesn't hold the same worldview or values as we do. That part of us that takes the person of our thoughts and judges them. They were caught in the act. Jesus does not reprimand the Pharisees. He simply looks at them and sees them. He sees them. He sees their holiness and their woundedness. And in that seeing, his compassion allows them to see themselves clearly. When he asks who has not sinned, they drop their stones. It doesn't say that they slithered away condemned. They walked away one by one. Each of them represents another voice within us that judges us. We were caught in the act by our ego. Can we drop the stones we aim at ourselves and allow that illusory part of the ego go? To walk away? Then the woman is standing before Jesus. She represents the judged part of us. Jesus sees her. He sees her holiness and her woundedness. And in seeing both her holiness and her woundedness, there's a transformative process that takes place of accepting her oneness. It is only in accepting our oneness that we can truly see ourselves or truly see another. I read a story this week about a snake charmer, or part of what I was reading talked about a snake charmer. And in this book, the book is The Living Words of Jesus by Reverend Mark Anthony Lord. And he explains the reason a snake charmer is safe with the snake. And the reason is because he does not perceive himself as separate. He enters into a state of consciousness and awareness of his oneness with the snake. And in so doing, the snake does not sense a separate entity. The snake sees the charmer as part of himself and therefore not a threat. If the charmer loses his focus, the snake would perceive their separateness and strike out. Is that not true for us too? Do we not strike out when we forget our oneness? It is through the awakened awareness of the truth of our connection in all that is that we can clearly hear the inspiration of spirit. We can find new ways of relating to each other. Inspiration is the ability to hear the inner guidance that is always present. Jesus asked the question, does God not take care of the lilies of the field and the birds? How much more valuable are you? And yet we think we need to do it ourselves. Again, the ego telling us that we are on our own and it's up to the ego to take care of us. No, there is a presence that is the all that is. This all that is always, always providing for our every need. It is we who must awaken to this truth. When we live out of this truth, our lives will look much different. You might be thinking, I like my life just the way it is. Thank you very much. Oh, that was me. Yet there is a life that contains unspeakable love, joy, and peace that I cannot see at this point because my consciousness isn't there yet. We cannot see what we do not know, or what we have not, what has not been introduced into our consciousness. So as my consciousness shifts, so does what I am capable of experiencing in a way of good. If we want more good in our lives, it is through awakening and living. It is from awakening and living from our oneness, from tapping into this inspiration. God is inspiration itself. Therefore, when we awaken to this inspiration, we can know that whatever it is, no matter how big or small, we will be fully, absolutely fully supported with all that we need. Our job is to be open to receiving. We do that by claiming the truth of who we are. Inspiration also comes from the center of love. Love is the power of attraction. If you want to think of the power of attraction as a power in your life, it is synonymous with love. What you love, you attract. It is a magnetic force that draws unto us all that we desire. Love is also the greatest healing agent there is. Love transforms disharmony, disconnection, anger, hurt, chaos, and confusion, and anything that appears to stand between as a second force, us and others, or us and our realization of our divine identity. In fact, the truth is, when we disagree or see things from another viewpoint, when we have the courage to share that viewpoint, even if it appears so, we are bringing in an energy that will create something bigger than what was there before. One of the things I heard a lot over the past 20 years is, I only hang out with people who are of like mind. If someone is negative, I don't hang out with them. This is completely contrary to what Jesus taught. He hung out purposely. He sought them out, the lepers, the tax collectors, the wounded, the homeless, the other. He ate with them and stayed in their houses. He did not exclude anyone who said yes to his offer to be present. Over and over, he said, our job is to love God, neighbor, and self equally. There is no gauge on love. Love does not see other and treats everyone the same. With kindness, compassion, truth, and clarity. Love is the foundation out of which peace arises. Peace is our ability to be in disagreement with someone or something while staying centered in our own truth. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is how we show up in the midst of conflict. It is having the capacity to listen to the thoughts in our own minds and not condemn ourselves but exercising loving compassion and the power of unity. This leads us into a place of inspiration, which is where we can hear those new ideas that are the answers to the questions that we hold about who we are. Peace is being fully present with those that we perceive to be other and listen with an open heart. It does not mean that we have to agree with them. We put down our stones, and instead of walking away, we stand up and ask to be able to understand. For being heard is one of our greatest needs and greatest gifts that we can give. When we hear another, we have given them a gift that has been in short supply for millennia. So you may have noticed that there are 4 words that I focused on this morning. And I'm going to show you these 4 words. Ta-da. A couple of years ago, many of us attended a mission vision workshop when we first began Unity of Verde Valley. And as we did that, we filled out these cards as part of the process. I invited people to fill out a card and write a word on it that represented Unity of Verde Valley. And we used those cards to create our mission and vision. And I saved those cards. And I went through them and I wrote them all out. And I, put check marks next to the ones that were duplicates. And these are the 4 words that stood out. Unity. We are an inclusive community seeking expression of oneness with all. Inspiration. We are spirit-led and divinely guided as we expand our understanding of truth and practice it with joy in all our affairs. Love. As the foundation of our being, we seek ways to love our neighbors and ourselves. We listen with open ears and speak from open hearts is peace. And we do all of this because we make a difference in the world. So these are our core values. Knowing our values is a key component in knowing who we have come here to be. When we know our values, we are able to look at our actions and see where we might be out of alignment or where we are in alignment and what we are doing well. These values that the members of the ministry chose are words that spoke to their hearts about how Unity of Verde Valley makes a difference in the world. And so I made a little picture that I want to share with you. Let's see if I can do this. Oh, where is it? Okay. There it is. There we go. So I did this word art. And you can see that in the word art, we have unity, inspiration, love, peace. And there are other words in there too. There's creativity and joy, prosperity, loving kindness, understanding, wisdom. That these words are words that were the words that spoke to our hearts and continue to speak to our hearts. And I thought that this would be a fun way to share that with you. Knowing our core values empowers us to stand in a deeper understanding of who we are. It invites us into a way of being so that we can truly live from the awareness of, in a world where we can be anything, be ourselves, be that higher self, that self that knows that it is an expression of the divine, that we live out of the divine. We are that divine expression. And so I'm going to invite us into a time of meditation. And in this meditation, I'm going to use the unity invocation. An invocation is not to bring God into us. It is to invoke or to bring forth from within. The version I'm going to use is a revised version by Reverend Dr. Paul Hesselbeck. And this version reflects the understanding of our oneness. So I'm going to invite us to get comfortable. And just breathe. Just allow that sacred breath in this moment. Allow that sacred breath to awaken our hearts. We may imagine a light emanating from our heart. That light moves us down deeper within. Down to the very core of our being. That place where we know that we know. There is no separation. I am the presence of pure being. I invite you to say that in your own mind. I am the presence of pure being. Emanating the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. I am all that God is, expressing at the point of me. I am all that God is, expressing at the point of me. As I express divine wisdom, all thoughts of mortal limitation have no power over me. I am the substance and power of pure love. I am the substance and power of pure love, bringing into manifestation my world according to divine law. And again, breathing into the sacred space. Acknowledging the presence of pure being. We awaken to a deeper truth of who we are and who we have come here to be. And again, taking in a sacred breath. I just invite you to open your eyes when you are ready.